So we've made it all the way to episode 15, the last official, I guess, episode that I'm going to film before taking a mat leave, I guess, from YouTube, since the boys will be here in less than 2 weeks now. And we're going to be back on my couch, because as you can see, the place where I normally film these episodes has been replaced with stacks of boxes, and all my furniture has gone off to our new home in Medicine Hat. So let's go over to the couch and talk about some knitting. Hey there, fiber friends! Welcome back to the Yarn Lab Canada podcast. I'm Sarah, and I'm coming to you for the last time from Calgary, Alberta. And this is episode 15 of the season 1 of my podcast, Knitting for Twins. And it'll be the last episode, the season finale, if you will, since my twin boys will be here in less than 2 weeks now, and I really am so excited and can't wait. It's also going to be a short one because this pregnant mommy is quickly running out of energy to be up and about and talking to a camera. So let's get right into the knitting. I should have said let's get into the crocheting, because my first finished object for you guys is in fact a crocheted project. This is a little baby blanket that I made for my boys. I'll show you the stitch pattern up close and the other side. And this blanket is crocheted from Patton's Bamboo Silk, and this was yarn that I fished out of my deep stash and pulled off this project in a little under 2 weeks. The details are that there is no pattern. What I did was I just took a stitch pattern from my crochet stitches, Ultimate Crochet Stitch Bible, 500 crochet stitches, and what I did was I used this fantail lace stitch pattern and just alternated colors, the blue and the white yarn, to make the sort of striping fans. So this will be a really cozy little blanket for one of the boys. It's kind of car seat blanket sized. It's not super large, but I really like it, and it used up a fair amount of stash yarn. I believe I used about 3.5 balls of the blue and just under 3 balls of the white yarn. But I will link the project page in the description below and have the accurate yardage for this blanket there. And as for this crochet stitch Bible, I picked this one up about a year ago. It's by St. Martin's Griffin Publishing Company, and it's an excellent crochet stitch Bible. If I could change one thing, it would be that I wouldn't make it hardcover, since it's a little bit awkward and hefty to have out and about, but it has both a lovely section of stitches that can be worked back and forth for sort of fabric-based crochet, as well as a huge selection of crochet motifs that would be great for making pieced blankets. So can't recommend this crochet stitch Bible enough. Alright, the next finished project is ×2, and these guys here are my ear flap baby hats. The pattern that I used for these is the Chemo Ear Flap Hat by Gabriella Henry. It's a free pattern. I will link it in the description below. And I just adapted it to incorporate 2 different colors of yarn with a bit of a Fair Isle motif, blending the 2 colors into each other. And I did the second one, obviously, in the opposite color gradient. And this used up some more of the Indie Way Yarns Principal DK that I got in Mina from the Knitting Expat podcast's Expat Yarn Swap. And the colorway for this blue yarn here, that was the Indie Way Yarns, is Waves of Superior. And then I just contrasted it with, you can see the colors better like that, contrasted it with Madeline Tosh DK in the El Greco colorway. So from that, those 2 skeins of yarn, I was able to make a adult size hat for myself, which I've showed in previous episodes, a pair of super adorable ear flap hats for the boys. This is the baby or toddler size, not the newborn size, so they'll be maybe not this winter, but next winter for sure. Good for the boys. And I had a teeny tiny bit left over that I was able to use to make a newborn size hat. I had more of the El Greco left over than the Waves of Superior. So this is just a simple newborn baby hat with 72 stitches in the round. And I just sort of did a striping gradient of the 2 yarns to use them up. And this will be going to my cousin, who is also expecting a little boy this summer. So from those 2 skeins of DK weight yarn, I was really able to stretch an adult hat, 2 toddler hats, and a newborn hat, which is really great. The next finished object that I have to show you is not one that I knit myself, but is one that the same cousin I just mentioned, who's expecting a little boy this summer, knit for my boys. She sent a package with some gifts for the babies, which included 2 super adorable little baby hats for the boys. She's a new knitter, and it's kind of awesome to watch her come into her own as a knitter. And these yarns, I'm not sure what they are, but the green is a really lovely tweed. They're both super soft, and my guess is that there's some kind of wool, probably wool mohair blend or wool angora blend, because they have a really great fuzziness and halo to them. But cute little baby hats, so thanks Cousin Krista. The boys will really like those this winter. And then the final finished object I don't have to show you, but I did knit a second pair of slippers for my mom. And she is off wearing them at our new home in Medicine Hat. Her and my dad have been loading up stuff here in Calgary to take to Kevin and our new home, and have been a huge help. And have been a huge help to us. But anyways, I knit her a pair of slippers last week that were a wool acrylic blend, and then I wanted to knit her a pair of just acrylic slippers in case she didn't like wool on her feet necessarily. So I just used this free pattern. It's the Bernat Handicrafter Holiday Slippers to knit. And I knit them up in about an hour and a half, so really easy with worsted weight acrylic yarn. So that's all the finished objects that I've had since last week. But I've still been working pretty diligently on my cousin's wedding blanket, so this is a different cousin. And since last week I have done 5 purple squares, so I've got 15 squares here. And I just started today the first of 5 green crocheted squares. And again, I'm just using Lion Brand Heartland acrylic yarn. I will link the project page for this project in the description below. The motifs for the squares are free patterns. They come from the Calendar Gan, which I unfortunately can't remember the designer's name off the top of my head, so I will link that in the description below as well. So 4 more squares to go, and then I can seam this together. Hopefully I'll be able to pull that off before the babies arrive. And the only other work in progress that I have right now is a sock. So I have, since last week, turned the heel, and I've knit the foot, and I'm just about to start my toe decreases. This sock here is the Nanaimo sock by Cookie A. I'm knitting it as part of Candace from Pin Feathers and Pearls and Lara from the Fawn Knits podcast. They are co-hosting a cookie jar cal, which is with the intent that you knit a Cookie A sock pattern between May 1st and June 30th. So I'm almost done sock 1, and I will hopefully get sock 2 started maybe by the end of today. And the yarn that I'm using for this sock is a local Alberta yarn. It's Prairie Dye Works, and this is the Anna sock base. It's an 80% merino, 20% nylon fingering weight sock yarn, and this is in the Lilac Dreams colorway. And I particularly love the way that this colorway is knitting up without pooling really. So it's a really great sort of tonal dye job for sure. happy with this sock. Love this yarn. Couldn't recommend it enough. This is also going to be entered into the Grocery Girls Fancy Feet knit along. And the intent of that knit along is to knit a sock using a new technique to you. And for me, new techniques included, this is my first pair of top-down socks. It's my first pair of magic loop socks. It's my first heel gusset, heel flap and gusset sock. Speaking of which, I made a number of errors on my heel flap and gusset. First, I did some terrible math and ended up with way too many stitches in my heel flap. I actually knit the whole thing and got to the short rows to turn the heel and realized that I was way off and had to frog that out. Second time around, I realized that I knit a heel flap and gusset a size smaller than the number of stitches I had in the round. But I went with it because I had already gotten all the way past the gusset, picking up the gusset stitches and doing the gusset decreases, and the sock fit fine, so I'm gonna go ahead and knit the second one equally as incorrectly because it turns out I actually like the fit of this. Anyways, that's all I have to show to you right now. I apologize if I'm hot and sweating and out of breath. At 34 weeks pregnant with twins, I am just mildly uncomfortable at the best of times, so I apologize for looking disheveled here. But I do want to thank everybody who's been watching my podcast this whole time, as well as people who have recently joined in and subscribed. I've noticed that the subscriber count has gone up quite a bit in the last 2 weeks. I also would like to especially thank everybody who has left a comment or reached out to me with a message on Ravelry. You can find me over on Ravelry, by the way, as Turner Classic. And people who have been commenting on Instagram. There's been a really great outpouring of support and well wishes for me and for the twins, and it really means the world to me. You know, this last couple weeks of pregnancy have been a little bit isolating as I've transitioned out of the lab and onto more of a bed/coast. As I've transitioned out of the lab and onto a more work from home / put your feet up and be on bed rest kind of stage of the pregnancy, and it can be isolated, and that can be isolating and lonely, and I really have to thank everybody who has reached out to me and the whole knitting and podcasting community in general, because you guys have been a really great support system and a really great sense of community over the last couple months of this pregnancy. So thank you for getting me to this point and for sharing with me what's been going on with your fiber experiments, whether they be knitting, crocheting, or spinning, or anything else for that matter. The podcast will return officially probably towards the end of the summer, but I do plan on doing some vlog style updates over the course of the summer as I work on my Stash Dash goals. I will link the information for that knit along in the description below, as well as a link to the Knit Girls, who are the hosts, the lovely hosts of Stash Dash. They just released a video with all of the rules and info for Stash Dash 2016 explained, so I will link that in the description below as well. So, if you are new to this channel, don't feel like I'm having babies and I'll be gone forever, please subscribe. I've got some older videos scheduled to be uploaded over the next couple of weeks, so they're already filmed and uploaded, and they will be scheduled for release on YouTube over the next couple of weeks to keep the content on this channel coming. And I will be sure to film a short snippet featuring the twin boys once they arrive, just to share my joy and our family's joy with all of you. That's all for now. Thank you again, and happy knitting, happy spinning, happy crocheting, happy weaving, happy dyeing, happy experimenting with fiber, because after all, this is the Yarn Lab. Thanks, guys.